Hello, brothers and sisters. I know this past Sunday, we had our CG Informational Meeting. However, I think perhaps I've heard some people didn't think it was this past Sunday. And also we ended our service a little bit later. And so I don't know if that gave enough time and that may have caused people to forget that we had the informational meeting. But nonetheless, we thought it was quite important for our whole church and especially our members to know what's going on with CG. So we held that meeting, but because many people weren't there, I'm re-recording what I went over. So if you'll join me, let me just share a little bit on what we discussed in our CG information meeting. A couple of things. Well, one big thing that the leaders and we decided we wanted to do was just simply communicate. We wanted to communicate to everyone what's been going on. We want to communicate uh, what are some of the values and purpose of CG. We wanted to communicate how to sign up for CG. We also wanted to communicate just what is our vision and continued uh, look towards our CG ministry. So that is what I plan to do in this brief couple minutes we have. First thing is what's going on with CG. We haven't met in quite a long time. We were intending to start the new quarter in beginning of January, but obviously today is March 9th, and we plan on starting CG on March 19th. So what was going on in that period of 3 months? Just a couple things. We had to seek recommitment of previous leaders who served in our CG ministry, asking them if they would be willing to serve in this new year. For the most part, a lot of them notified me as their CG pastor that they'll step down or they'll recommit by around December. So most of it was because of the second one. We were looking for new CG leaders. So super thankful. We have had a few brothers and sisters willing to serve with us and join our CG team. And then the third thing was we needed to evaluate our CG ministry, especially in light of the pandemic. We started CG wanting members to, host and meet together in person, eat food together, really meet outside of the regular CG Friday meetings, and just a lot of that. But because of the pandemic, and we have to be mindful of just how many meet together and whatnot, we need to do some evaluation in that. And so those are some of the things that were going on, and therefore caused us, it, it required us to use a little bit more time. Yeah, so that's kind of what went on. What are some of the updates? So in that time spent, so the current status is we have 5 CGs. Last year we had 5 CG, and this year we have 5 CGs, and super thankful for the brothers and sisters who committed to serving our ministry. If I can share who the leaders are, Caroline Shin, our sister Caroline, will be serving in the Arlington area and Irving in that kind of region as one of our CG leaders. Our sisters Elizabeth Sock and Amanda Pearson will be serving in the Dallas area as our CG leaders. They'll be co-leading. Our brother Jonathan Sock will be serving in the Carrollton area as a CG leader. Our sister Maggie Chen will be serving as a CG leader in the Carrollton area. And our brothers Joe Yan, and Samuel Ma will be serving together in the Frisco area, which is more north of where our church is. So those are our CG leaders and our 5 CGs. In terms of the content, there's been much discussion amongst our team as to what we'll be going over. We've had a lot of great ideas. We wanted to tackle on some current event issues. We wanted to go a little bit further more on what is faith. So we had a wide spectrum of possible content that we would like to go over together in our CGs. But I made some executive decisions as a CG pastor, and we decided to go over sermon discussion, sermon-based content, what I preach on Sunday, and the questions that are given. That would be the discussion material. And the reason why we did that is one, I'm starting to preach on, or I just started to preach on Galatians, and we as a church are studying together what is the gospel. And because our CG ministry, the purpose of CG ministry is to go deeper in our understanding of the gospel, and also really live in light of the gospel. Um, we need to know what the gospel is. So as we put our hearts and minds together, and ultimately as we are led by the Spirit, my hope and prayer is that we would together learn a little bit more what the gospel truly means, and then also um, the reason why I made the executive decision to let's do sermon-based discussion is your CG leaders do a lot, especially on the back end. And so I didn't want them to be too overwhelmed on the material and discussion. So I told them I'll do more of the brunt work of developing the questions and the points and whatnot. And so since we all are worshiping together on Sundays and hearing the sermon, we'll kind of be on the same page as we, share and discuss and so on and so forth. Yeah, we just don't want to be so lost in the doing of things, but just really be present and engage with one another. So again, this is one of the ways where it frees up our CG leaders so that they can also really share and just to listen and just be amongst our leaders rather than thinking of too much of the preparation part. But in the coming weeks, I do want the opportunity for CGs to also think of what are some things that they want to study together and really just grow. So I'm open to the content being a bit more maybe tailored to the CG in the future. But we'll decide together in the weeks to come, and then our CG leaders will let you know and fill you in. In terms of the schedule, our first quarter already began. Time continues to go. So we're technically towards the end of the first quarter. So what we'll do is we'll combine the first and second quarter together. So the first and second quarter will begin March 19th, and it ends, I believe, June 25th. June 25th. And so that would be the first 2 quarters. And after the second quarter, we'll have like a week we'll have about a 2-week break. And then we'll start the third quarter. And after the third quarter, we'll have a 2-week break and then end the year with the fourth quarter. So that's how our schedules run for CG. Purpose of CG, as I shared, really the gospel is the foundation of really any Christian ministry. And so our desire is to really centralize the gospel in our lives and therefore centralize the gospel in our CG. So what does it mean to be people who live in light of what God has done through Jesus Christ to bring us together with him, and how we can live that out and how we can preach and teach one another that. We also want to be a gospel revealing community, which means we are gathered not because we're in the same ethnicity or socio-economic background, but we are together because of the gospel. And so we want men and women who look at our community and to see that, and really also to ponder what is it that brings that group together. I don't see any like commonality, right? At least in the world sense. But we hope that we can show them, and in the end, yeah, we're different, but where we're unified is through the gospel of Jesus Christ. So we want to be a gospel revealing community. The structure of CG is we have a CG pastor. I am serving in that capacity. Hopefully in the years to come, we can have other brothers or sisters serve with us in that capacity. We have our CG leaders, and then we have our CG members. So that is the structure. I am not leading a CG as I did last year because I want to be more of a supporting role and really lead our CG leaders and to equip them and to train them because they're the main men and women who are doing a lot of the work of the ministry. So I'll be partnering with them in that sense. And then they themselves are partnering with our members, those who join CG, to do really the preaching and living out the gospel together. So that kind of leads on to our member commitment. You'll hear more from your CG leaders on the first March 19th CG gathering, but our expectation and our desire and ask of our members is when they commit, they're not there just to gain things for themselves, but rather they're first part of a community because of what Jesus has done. And because of what he has done, we are already in community through Christ. And so we're living out the implications of that. So we like for you to, share, encourage, be there present, not just physically, but even mentally, emotionally. We want y'all to open and share with your fellow brothers and sisters. We want y'all to reach out and serve together. So really the commitment that we're asking, actually that's a lot, right? But it's basically be part of the family, right? Don't just expect your leaders to do all the serving, but we're called to work, take part in the ministry of the gospel together. Yeah, and also I would like to uh, encourage all of our members to one day consider being a CG leader themselves. We're called to serve and care for one another, and so we hope we can commit like that together. How you can sign up is you can just go to this link, lifeandfruit.churchcenter.com/groups, or if you just go to our lifeandfruitchurch.com website, there has been a new menu created for community groups, which will take you directly to this page. And this page is a cool software where you can see a little bit of tidbit of what CG is about. And then you can actually click the location or the CG leader that is serving in that area, that region, and see a little bit more about them, but also sign up through that website. When you hit sign up or join a CG link, it's like a button. It'll take you to a pop-up where it will ask you for your name and email. And so we ask that you would see what region you're in and join that CG. Um, what was I going to say? Some of the things that just because you signed up for that CG doesn't guarantee you'll be there. The reason why is because, well, first we want to make sure you're in the right region. And then secondly, there may be some shiftings that we may need to do. And so for the most part, if you choose the correct region, you'll be in that CG. Another thing that I do need to share is that there is a limited capacity. Each of our CGs will be at 8 people at max. And the reason why is because we're still meeting through online and having more than that, it just becomes too overbearing and it's hard to foster growth and intimacy. So please bear with us. We're trying to do what we can on our end to make sure more of our members can join a CG. But there will be some of you who won't be able to join it because it's closed. But please do be patient with us, but also pray with us. Our hopes and intention is to hopefully that the Lord will grow these opportunities so that we can really do community together. But the 8 people per group max is intentionally thought. And so that is something to be mindful of. I would encourage you Don't think too much of, well, there's not many spaces open, so I'll just kind of wait or just let other people join. Don't think about that. Just join a CG. Let us figure out on our end to again open it more opportunities. But for you as a member, just you know join in. Just join in. CG Vision. Where are we going with CG? One of the reasons why we meet by region is we want to see long-term growth, and then also ministering to our current cities and towns that we live in. We do CGs by region for that reason. We want men and women who live in that close proximity to see that they are there not just because it's just a place for rest, but God strategically placed you there to serve and be a salt and light, be salt and light of that community area. And it's fun serving together. Right? I know some CGs in the past did like homeless ministry and things like that. And then also we want really our CGs to be a place where people can really have long-term friendships, brotherhoods and sisterhoods to really grow. And if we just go by year term, it's hard, you can't really see that. So those are some of the big vision that we have. Of course, in the end, it's the Lord who leads and guides us. But for now, that is what we seek and desire. Really growth with one another in the Lord, and that growth to really permeate in to missional living in our community, in our region that God has placed us in. Unfortunately, I can't take any questions from y'all, but if you do have any questions, please do contact me. You can call me at 972-489-4775, or you can email me at joshua.s.kang@yonhap.org. But I have a question for you. What about newcomers? Josh, it seems that there is a limited space, but what if we have newcomers that joined or have joined us? Great question. We do have newcomers, men and women, despite the season, that they're looking for community because looking for a church to worship, a place to grow, place to serve, place to be committed to really God's local body. We're doing what we can, again, just to open up space, make it possible for even newcomers to join our CG. Because what better way for newcomers to get to know our church than really rub shoulders and learn about our church. Church is not program, it's the people, right? And I'm very thankful and proud to say, all right, we have a great group of men and women in our community. So we'll try to plug them in to our CG. But meanwhile, I am working with Grace, our sister Grace, and our welcoming team to see how we can really just love on those who are new to the area and are looking for a local church community. So we're doing some things structurally, but this is where I want to ask our members to, yeah, let's be hospitable, church. It's not, Life and Fruit is not just my church or person A's church or person B's church, but this is our home, right? And if anybody joins or visits our home, we offer them water. Like, hey, what would you like to drink? Or can I show you the place? Or just converse with them. Yeah, this is where I think this is a little bit of family business. When newcomers come, we love for you to contact me or Grace and ask, has there been a newcomer this week? And can I maybe reach out to them or say hello, or would you give them my number if they want to kind of know a little bit more about our community, or just hear just what the Lord's doing through a sister's life or a brother's life, and just really welcoming them in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. This is something that we can all do. So as we're structurally trying to do things, the trellis work, we're all called to do the vine work of loving and caring and just supporting one another. So let's be someone who can do that to newcomers, and whether they're a Christian or not. I love what God says to the people of Israelites, right? He says, he really calls them to love on the sojourner, those who are foreigners, those who are strangers. And the way he says is, you ought to do that because you too once were a sojourner. You too once were a foreigner. So love and care and teach them my ways, right? We've all been a newcomer at one point in our life. Church, even though there's some limitations on our structure, that we as a people just go out and embrace those who are new, those who are relatively even new to our church, and to care and love one another in the name of Christ. So, yeah. Well, again, if you have any questions, please reach out. But hopefully this short 20-minute video has been informative and just communicates to y'all just what's been going on CG. And please do sign up. We need people to sign up so that we can kind of get the groups in order, and our CG leaders can contact their respective members, because we plan on meeting March 19th. So not this Friday, but the following Friday. So cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time.